You're just in time for KMCV News, and here's a peek at what's in store. The Article 12 issue was the topic of a 5-hour public hearing today on Capitol Hill. The crowd was split over whether the legislature should get involved. And local leaders and journalists get a chopper ride out to the USS Belleau-Wood for a first-hand look at Operation Tandem Thrust going on off Tinian. And we take another look at how the Tanapag villagers are spending their time on Ulul Island these days. Those stories and more next on KMCV News. Stay tuned. Buenas noches para todos hamzuta saipan luta zantinian guahusi kurlada diliangro. Good evening and welcome to the Thursday cast of KMCV News. We're going to juggle our show around just a little bit for you. It's not totally unheard of. We've done it once before because our top two stories regarding the Article 12 public hearing on Capitol Hill today and the Tandem Thrust military operation just off of Tinian. 26 people stood before a Senate committee this morning and offered their opinions on a bill to set guidelines for the court on interpreting the Article 12 provision of the CNMI Constitution. Some people said the lawmakers had no business interfering with Article 12. Others said that the lawmakers would be shirking their responsibilities if they didn't tackle the issue. And after the 5-hour public hearing was over, the issue seemed even more confusing than when it started, but all agreed that at least it was being discussed. Senator Paul Manglona set out to gather public input on his Bill 8-124, which would offer the judicial system some guidelines in interpreting Article 12. And he and his fellow committee members got an earful. Attorney Ted Mitchell, who represents the majority of the plaintiffs in the Article 12 cases, says lawyers...
What is wrong with the court's opinion in the cases that found a resulting trust is essentially that the court did not treat the doctrine as a last resort, did not pay attention to the question of what the parties' arrangements and relationships were. The main problem with that is that it prevents the court from getting at what the real issues are under your Constitution, as I understand the Constitution. And that is to find out what the realities are of the rights of the parties to the transaction.
Attorney Ken Govendo told the Senate committee that if they bow to the pressure being exerted by the business community now to reinterpret Article 12, then the bowing will never stop.
And we'll have NICO and JL say, your environmental laws are too hard, we're leaving. The next thing they'll complain about is the zoning law. The zoning laws are too hard, we're leaving. In other words, they're going to use this as a form of extortion. Then they might ask that some people, other people, leave here because they're bad for business. You will become the slaves of the business community whose bottom line is high population, low wages, no tax increases, and the alienation of land. In other words, I call it the developocracy.
Businesswoman Jarina Bloss offered Manglona guidelines on how to draft his bill.
The welfare of the indigenous majority should be a priority over a powerful or influential minority. Number 3, it should not jeopardize a poor man's chances of seeking legal counsel or help when that help is appropriate and necessary. 4, it should prevent unscrupulous, selfish, and greedy opportunists from exploiting Article 12 for personal gain.
Abel Olapai said the victims in Article 12 cases are often the original landowners who did not know the value of their land and now have nothing. He relayed a story about his nephew.
He took us $15,000 for 20,000 square meters of land and bought a second-hand pickup about 3 years ago. That pickup is long gone, rusted off. I feel sorry about these people, and I feel sorry about my children and my grandchildren who may not be able to get education and be educated enough to protect themselves against exploitation from outside.
Connie Coward says she is also a victim of the Article 12 controversy, but on the other side of the issue than Olapai's nephew.
Now we're facing this threat of somebody taking, you know, my house, it's all we've got. Take it and just throw us out in the streets. So where's the fairness in all of this? Who is the bad person here? Is it us? And if there's anybody out there that can stand up and say, yes, please do so right now. No? Is it us? We're the victims.
Senator Paul Manglonia promised more public hearings on his bill in the near future in Chamorro and in Carolinian. He also told the crowd that he's having the bill translated into Chamorro and Carolinian. We would like to let you know that that entire public hearing is going to air on our channel 14 at 7 o'clock. We would like to advise you, however, unfortunately, we had some audio difficulties during the first hour of that public hearing, but we decided that we're going to go ahead and air it anyway. So once again, at channel 14 at 7 o'clock p.m., you will see the entire public hearing in its entirety. And also, it's not often you get to say this, but just into the KMCV newsroom, from the Superior Court, there was some action and movement in an Article 12 case. This is in a number of plaintiff actions against Marianne De Leon Guerrero Tudela, plaintiff, versus Jack Lane, Roger Gridley, Realty Trust Corporation, Greg Castro, plaintiff, versus the same group of people, Jack Lane, Gridley, Realty Trust. Vicente Cepeda, plaintiff, versus Robert Hefner, Bernie Cabrera, Realty Trust, and Teresita Camacho de la Cruz and Estefania Camacho Chong, plaintiffs, versus the Hotel Nico Saipan, Roger Gridley, Kim Batchelor, and Realty Trust. And according to, this was a order denying motion to disqualify Carl Smith. Now, according to this decision issued by presiding Judge Alexander Castro, the plaintiffs argue that Carl Smith, this is an attorney firm, should be disqualified because of the firm's representation of multiple clients. The plaintiffs, however, have failed to show how Carl Smith's representation would interfere with their respective rights. Accordingly, the plaintiffs' motions to disqualify the firm are hereby denied. And so that was issued just today. That's the latest development in the ongoing Article 12 litigation. And now, according to my staff, I believe that we're ready with our tandem story. A military assault is being waged in the Marianas. One of the largest military exercises in years is being staged around Tinian. Glenn Wakai flew 17 miles out to sea to bring us the latest on Operation Tandem Thrust.
You're living in one of the safest places on Earth. Surrounding the waters of the Marianas are 5,000 troops, 8 ships, and 50 military airplanes. They're all here for tandem thrust, an exercise which brings together all segments of the military. The scenario is a non-combative evacuation of American citizens from Tinian. These aren't war games. Admiral Timothy Wright says the military's role is quickly changing during the post-Cold War era.
We tend to focus more on littoral regional conflicts. And certainly there are areas of Asia where there is potential for conflict.
Military forces from Guam and Japan are taking part in tandem thrust. Wright says the CNMI is a convenient location to stage the exercise.
It allows us to train in an area that is similar to some areas where we may be operating.
This ship, the USS Blue Ridge, is a floating communications station. Much of the activities will be coordinated on board. Then it was time to board another ship. This one, the USS ship carrying assault helicopters and Harrier aircrafts. The captain describes the action on the deck.
As you can see, we have to start out with day landings first before the pilots and go into night operations. We try to give them a couple of day landings and check their currency, and then once we're satisfied with them, then we send them out at nighttime and let them get so many night landings also.
He says so far the operation is going well, considering the logistical planning which is needed.
You know, like I said, we're just joining up with our other forces, and we're getting the command and control set up, and we're going through those type operations. So we're just at the very beginning. So far, it is going very well. It's much smoother than what we've seen in the past, and a lot of it is because we're starting to train in the joint environment more and more, and so we're going to see a lot of these type things smooth out.
Operation Tandem Thrust will continue over the next few weeks. On board the USS Bellawood in the Philippine Sea, I'm Glenn Wakai, KMCV News.
What a rough assignment. On a more serious note, one of the key elements in treating ICE abusers is to get them away from outside influences. That's why some doctors are saying that inpatient care is desperately needed here on the island. The Commonwealth Health Center is exploring the idea of such a facility with the governor. Dr. Carlos Vale says if a halfway house can be created for his mentally ill patients, the current psychiatric ward can be used to house ICE users needing inpatient care.
It was the governor's first offer about 6 weeks ago. He sent a letter asking us how can we address the ICE problem in the CNMI. So we responded with another letter stating that if we could get a halfway house to place our chronic patients, then we could open this unit for the ICE patients and all the patients in acute crisis.
The doctor says that both offices are still in the process of discussing the idea. No word yet as to whether this project will come through. And when we come back, we'll show you the winners in the Red Cross raffle, and we'll also tell you the correct way to use the 911 emergency number. Stay with us. The lifeline that directly connects us with emergency help is being abused. Department of Public Safety officials say hundreds of 911 calls are bogus. Loren Harrison reports on the life-threatening problem.
Hello. 911 is having a serious problem with prank callers lately. The emergency number is supposed to give people a direct line to the police dispatcher who can immediately send help. DPS Public Information Officer Kathy Hsu says that when you call 911, it's critical to stay calm, listen, and answer all the officers' questions.
When calling 911, it's important that the caller remain calm, give the location, give the phone number of where they're calling from, give the nature of the problem, the location, and for any particular landmarks and any other special information. And the most important part is not to hang up until told to do so. The dispatcher can get all the needed information.
Chief Antonio Regis says that the 911 system used here in Saipan is not as advanced as the ones used in Guam and on the mainland. He says that prank callers tie up the line and could hinder someone with an emergency from receiving needed assistance.
That it's a regular number that you can call, everybody can call. Okay? And when you call this 911, and if it's not busy, it will not be transferred to another agency to respond to it. Plus, if you don't leave your address, then we got a problem because we don't have the system that connected to the telephone system that will show us your address and your location.
Since the technology is not available to trace the calls, Hsu says the community needs to help keep the line open.
We get all kinds of calls, and more often we have kids just wanting to make conversation, and so we're as parents teach their children not to call the 911 number unless it's an emergency. Their parents. Someone in their household might need help or something, and if they call and make prank calls, affects it.
If this problem isn't solved, it could be the cause of many lost lives. In Susupi, I'm Loren Harrison for KMCV News.
First came equal access, and now another advance in technology will be available. A new telephone service that allows people with hearing and speech disabilities is coming to the CNMI by the end of this month. It's called a text telephone. This will make it easier for the disabled to talk with people right here at home and all over the world. Thomas Camacho, the island's project coordinator for the American Disabilities Act, explains that persons wanting to communicate simply call a local number which connects them with the operator who relays the message.
An individual with a hearing impaired has a TDD and he wants to order a pizza, okay, for example at Rodolfo's. That individual will dial through his TDD, the TR's operator. And what happens is that the operator will give the individual his or her ID, and then he will call Rodolfo's Pizza. Okay, and then what's going to happen there is that if Rodolfo's answers, then the operator would type back to the TDD user and say they're online. So the TDD user would say, can I order a large pizza, Hawaiian, Canadian, right? So the operator again goes back to the hearing people, and they would translate the message.
Under Title IV of the American Disabilities Act, telephone companies must use this system in all states and territories by July 26. A number of young Carolinians from Tanapag recently trekked out to their ancestral island of Ulul in search of their roots. Once there, they found a number of customs and traditions waiting to be discovered. Nanette Miranda reports on the aspect of food in the Carolinian culture. The exclusive footage was brought back by our photographer, Mario Benito.
The Tanapag villagers certainly found out that life here on Namanwito is not quite like life on Saipan. The kids learned that the cuisine, for instance, is based on what is available on or around the island.
We learned that here you don't eat regular food like on Saipan. You only eat breadfruit and drink coconut.
Those same agricultural products are used as ingredients in many of the baked goods. An underground wood-burning pit, not a stove, bakes their treats to perfection. If the ground isn't providing their meal, the water is. Fishing, called afile, is an enormous but interesting effort.
The things that we use for this type of fishing are many coconut leaves, lots of rope, and every effort from every individual, all the men of this island.
You heard right. All the men on the island need to participate. Some go out in a type of a fishing boat called a maneo. Others go out in a more modern boat. But the majority stay back to be part of the big catch. A long rope with coconut leaves attached is treaded outside the reef. And the men exert every effort to make the leaves sway so that the fish swim closer to shore. A group of people then jump into the water like crazy, scaring the fish towards the fishermen who are waiting with their nets. For those of you who catch fish with a pole, eat your heart out. This method works to a T. The men come back with an abundant load of fish every single time.
The men go out fishing, and when they bring the fish, the woman will bring lots of food, and they will build a fire here and barbecue, and everybody eat.
It looks like this may be one of the traditions that will make it back to Saipan. Nanette Miranda for KMCV News.
Winners of the Club 200 raffle didn't need fishing nets to snag their prizes. All they had to do was show their winning ticket stubs at last night's ceremony to claim their goods. Cars, electronic equipment, business equipment were among the prizes donated by several local businesses. Over 1,000 tickets were sold for the event, raising enough money to meet Red Cross's operating budget for the next fiscal year. The grand prize was $25,000, which was won by Lisa Manglonia. And we'd like to leave you with an announcement of an art show that's going to open tomorrow night at the Convention Center. The free exhibit of local artists begins at 7 p.m. We close our newscast now with another look at Ulul Island. You'll probably recognize a few of the faces, and good news, we hear that they're going to come back tomorrow. And also, we have one final reminder. The public hearing that we were talking about, it's going to air on Channel 14 at 7 o'clock, and unfortunately the first hour had some audio difficulties, so we apologize in advance for that, but the rest of it is fine. So at 7 o'clock, tune into that. So enjoy one more look at Ulul Island, and we hope to see you back tomorrow night. Good night.
Good night.